I marked the date on my calendar 3 weeks early, a little gold star next to it, to make it feel more like hope than desperation. This Thanksgiving would be different. No more sitting quietly at someone else's table, watching someone else carve the turkey. This year, I'd be the host, the reason they gathered. The restaurant I chose was tucked on a quiet corner in downtown Charlottesville, between a florist and a wine shop. Inside, it was cozy, brick walls, warm lighting, just personal enough. I reserved the private dining room, set the menu ahead of time: roast duck, heirloom stuffing, 3 kinds of pie. I even ordered place cards. They'd like it, or at least, they'd show up. I bought thick ivory stationery and wrote each invitation by hand. "Dear Mom and Dad," I began, though it never felt natural. May and Colton got shorter, simpler notes. Grandpa Henry's was the only one without explanation, just the time, the place, and a small line in pencil: "Please come." I mailed them the next day. The woman at the post office noticed the ink, forest green, almost black in the wrong light. In the days that followed, I saved every receipt, checked my email too often, and kept smoothing out the seating chart. Every detail felt like a chance to matter, to be seen. On Thanksgiving morning, I ironed my dress twice and left before sunrise. I wanted everything ready before anyone arrived. The dining room was already set: white linens, silver cutlery, candles flickering like they knew this night might mean something. I placed the name cards carefully: Victor, Rosalind, Colton, May, Henry, and Mira at the head, not out of pride, but because that's where hosts usually sit. At 5:15, the waitress brought out a basket of warm bread. I folded my hands and waited. I told them 6, but maybe someone would come early, maybe Henry. I checked my phone, then again, nothing. At 6:05, I stepped out to the lobby. The maitre d' smiled politely. I couldn't return it. At 6:20, I went outside. The air was colder than I'd expected. I called Rosalind. "Oh, Mira," she said, casual, not even surprised. "We're at Colton's. Your foster dad's not feeling well." It was easier this way. Behind her, I heard the sounds: glasses clinking, plates being passed, laughter, familiar voices, none of them mine. "I see," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I'm sure you understand," she added before hanging up. I stared at the phone for a moment, not angry, just still. Then I went back inside and took my seat at the table for 6. The bread had gone cold, the candles burned lower. The waitress returned and hesitated. "Should I wait before serving?" "No," I said, "go ahead." I sat for a while longer, still pretending maybe someone was late, maybe someone was still coming. But when I looked at the empty chairs, I knew. I folded the menu and waved her over. "Just one plate, please." My voice didn't shake, but my hands did. She didn't ask questions. I was grateful for that, for not being asked to explain. The room around me filled up: couples, families, people leaning in close. I caught pieces of their conversations: a job promotion, someone joking about last year's dinner. It all sounded so easy. The food came, everything I'd chosen with them in mind. I cut a bite, but it was dry in my mouth. I forced myself to chew. I glanced again at the names: Victor, Rosalind, Colton. I pictured them at Colton's, eating something simpler, maybe louder, maybe warmer. My fork scraped the plate. I took another bite, trying not to taste. I kept my face calm, my hands still, but when I reached for water, the glass hit the table too hard. I pulled my hand back, folded it with the other. From across the room, a boy laughed and knocked over a cup. His mom just smiled and cleaned it up, effortless. The waitress returned. "Is everything all right?" "Yes," I said, "it's perfect." I was folding my napkin when the door opened. I didn't look up. I'd stopped hoping by then. New arrivals were just noise, others being welcomed, hugged, wanted. Then I heard him. "Sorry I'm late, Pumpkin." I looked up. Grandpa Henry stood at the door, his old wool coat catching the wind. He walked slowly, but his smile was still the same, and it broke through everything I'd been holding in. He sat beside me without asking. "You saved me a seat," he said, spotting the card with his name. "Of course," I said, trying to breathe. The waitress returned. "Would you like a plate as well, sir?" "Just coffee," he said. "I came for company, not courses." She nodded and left us alone, and we sat there in the soft candlelight I had nearly given up on. He didn't mention the empty seats. Didn't ask where everyone else was. He just looked at me like he already knew. Then, from inside his coat, he slid a worn envelope across the table. "I was going to wait," he said. "But maybe waiting's done more harm than good." I stared at the envelope. The flap was yellowed, its edges soft and frayed. "What is it?" He folded his hands. "The truth, Ma. About where you come from. About who you are." My fingers hovered over the paper. My heart started to beat like it recognized something I didn't yet understand. "It's all in there," he said, quieter now. "I think you're ready." I opened the envelope carefully, afraid that anything too sudden might tear what was inside. The first thing I pulled out was a photograph, faded, probably from the 90s. A woman stood in front of a white railing with autumn trees behind her. Blonde hair pulled back, sharp cheekbones, and eyes, my eyes. The same color, the same tilt when she smiled. It was like seeing a version of myself I'd never met. I turned the photo over. In Grandpa's handwriting, Clara, 23 years old. Beneath it, a business card, simple white, clean surf-style font. Clara Whitmore, founder and CEO, Whitmore Design Group, Seattle, Washington. And then, folded in thirds, a letter. I hesitated. Then I opened it. "Dear Mira. If you're reading this, Henry decided it was time. I've written and rewritten this letter more times than I can count. I was young when I had you, barely out of college. My family didn't approve of your father. When they found out I was pregnant, they cut me off. I was alone, broke, scared, and I made the hardest decision of my life." I stopped reading. My eyes were burning. Grandpa reached across the table and rested his hand gently on mine. "I knew your mother before all of this," he said. "She was strong. Kind. Far too young to go through what she did. She came to me when there was no one else." I looked back down at the page. "I asked Henry to help place you with someone stable. I never imagined they'd keep me away. I never imagined they wouldn't tell you. I've been looking for you for years, Mira. Just hoping one day, you'd want to know me." The page crinkled under my fingers. I hadn't noticed how tightly I was holding it. "She's in Seattle," Grandpa said softly. "She's still waiting." He gave me time. I read the letter again, slower this time. Like I was learning a language I'd always known but never spoken. The handwriting was graceful. She didn't beg. She didn't explain too much. She just told the truth. "She came to me when she was 6 months along," Grandpa said. "No job. No place to go. Her parents wouldn't even return her calls. I let her sleep on my couch. Helped her get through the pregnancy. She asked me to find a safe home for you. She thought that was the most selfless thing she could do." I stared at the last line. "I love you. I always have. Clara. Victor and Rosalind were supposed to give you a better life." Grandpa kept going. "They had a house. They'd been trying to have kids. They said all the right things. I thought I was giving you a family. But I was wrong. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. The first time I visited," he continued, "I saw how Rosalind spoke to you. Like you were a burden. I brought it up once. She told me, 'We're doing our duty.' That word stayed with me. Like something clicked into place. I hadn't been raised with resentment. I'd been raised with obligation." "Clara never stopped searching," he said. "When her company grew, she hired people to dig through sealed adoption records. Yours were locked. But last year, she tracked me down through an old church listing. I made her a promise. When you were ready, I'd give you the letter." I folded it neatly and slid it back into the envelope. I didn't know what I would do with it. But I knew I wouldn't throw it away. "She's not asking for anything," Grandpa said gently. "Just a chance. And for you to decide what comes next." I didn't tell Grandpa I was going. I needed to do it alone. The drive to Sycamore Lane was short, but it stretched inside me. Every stoplight was a chance to turn around. I didn't. The house looked the same, fresh paint, trimmed hedges, the old porch swing still creaking in the breeze. May's car was parked out front. Colton's truck too. They were all home. Rosalind answered the door. Her face froze for a moment, then settled into something practiced. Mira, what a surprise. I need to speak with all of you, I said. She paused, then stepped aside. Victor was in his chair, the news playing quietly. May sat at the table, tea in hand. Colton leaned against the kitchen counter, scrolling his phone. Everything was the same. Except me. I stood in the middle of the room. I know about Clara. Silence fell. Heavy. Sharp. Clara Whitmore, I said, louder. My mother. The woman who gave birth to me. The one who asked Grandpa to find me a family. Rosalind's mouth twitched. We took you in. Don't rewrite history. I'm not, I said. My voice calm. Clear. You gave me shelter. But not love. You gave me food. But never belonging. Victor shifted in his chair but said nothing. You didn't fail me, I said, you just never saw me, and I'm done waiting to be seen. Colton scoffed. May looked away. I turned to Rosalind. Thank you for the roof, I'll take it from here. I didn't wait for a reply. My heels echoed down the steps. The air outside was colder, but lighter too. When I closed the car door behind me, I didn't cry, I didn't even look back. By the time I reached Grandpa's, I already knew what came next. The plane touched down in Seattle just after noon. The city stretched gray beneath the clouds, quiet and unfamiliar, but it didn't feel unkind. Grandpa had offered to come, but I told him I needed this first moment to be mine. The cafe Clara suggested was small, tucked near Pike Place, all warm brick and soft lighting. I chose a window seat. The chamomile tea in front of me went cold, twice. Then the door opened. She stepped inside slowly, scanning the room, her hair tied back, a long coat buttoned neat, but it was her eyes that caught me first, eyes I'd only ever seen in mirrors. When we locked eyes, she froze, her lips parted like words had rushed forward but caught in her throat. I stood, she walked toward me, cautious, like she was afraid I might disappear if she moved too fast. When she reached me, she stopped and whispered, "Can you forgive me for letting you grow up feeling unloved?" I couldn't answer, not yet. My throat was tight, not from anger or grief, but the sudden release of weight I hadn't realized I still carried. So I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around her. She was warm, slightly trembling, her hands clung to my back like she'd been waiting her whole life to hold something real. I'm here now, I whispered. She pulled back, eyes wet but steady. You look just like him, she said, but your voice, that's mine. We talked for hours, no grand speeches, just truths passed gently across the table. She told me about design school, the company she built in her garage, and how she never stopped looking for me, even when people told her it was time to let go. I told her about the attic room, the Thanksgiving that never happened, Grandpa's quiet, steady love. When it was time to leave, she asked if I had dinner plans. I didn't, so I followed her out into the Seattle evening, the cries of gulls overhead, her hand resting lightly on my shoulder. Her penthouse overlooked the water, windows catching the last streaks of afternoon light. The table was simple, set for three, no name cards, no menus, just linen napkins, polished silver, and a kind of quiet steadiness I hadn't known I'd been craving. Grandpa arrived just before 5, arms full of rosemary and 2 bottles of cider. He took one look at the view and muttered, "Not bad for a girl who started with nothing but a sketchpad and grit." Clara laughed, free and easy, and told him to sit before he dropped anything. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and sage. She'd made the pie crusts from scratch. I'd helped peel apples that afternoon. The rhythm of the knife had felt grounding. "I think you should carve," Clara said, handing me the knife. I paused, not out of fear, just surprise. I'd never been asked before. Grandpa hummed an old tune as he settled in. Clara poured cider into mismatched glasses and raised hers with a quiet smile. We sat. We passed food. No one made speeches. No one pretended joy. The air didn't stretch to hold what it couldn't, it simply held us. I carved slowly. The slices weren't perfect. No one cared. Grandpa reached for seconds before his first plate was done. Clara refilled his glass. She caught me watching her once, her eyes soft, not searching, just full of gratitude. Later, we lingered over pie and let the night unfold. The silence held ease, not emptiness. I looked around the table. Every seat was filled, not by duty, but by choice. As Clara stood to clear the plates, she touched my shoulder. "You belong here," she said. And for the first time in years, I believed her. That night, I wrote a letter. I sat at Clara's kitchen table while the city shimmered outside the tall windows. Grandpa slept in the guest room. Clara read on the couch, her glasses sliding down her nose. I didn't write to accuse. I didn't need to relive what was already gone. I just needed to end it. Dear Victor, Roslyn, Colton, and May. I hope you're well. Thank you, for the roof, for the meals, for the space I filled in your house. It wasn't always easy, but it shaped me. I found peace, not in the past, but ahead. I'm no longer waiting to be chosen by people who never saw me. I've chosen myself. You don't need to reply. This isn't an invitation. It's a farewell. Be well. Mira. I sealed it, and the next morning, I dropped it into a blue mailbox. As it slid inside, something in me settled, not victory, just clarity. Weeks passed. Seattle began to feel less temporary. I joined Clara's design team, not as her daughter, but as a contract analyst. Evenings were quiet. No one yelled my name from down the hall. They said it softly, like it belonged. One afternoon, Grandpa and I were planting herbs in balcony pots when my phone buzzed. A message from May. Can you help? Colton lost everything. Mom and Dad are struggling. No greeting, no warmth, just need. I stared at the screen, then hit delete. The silence that followed was clean. Grandpa looked at me, caught the shift in my expression, and said nothing until I set the phone down. You've given them enough, kiddo, he said, now live. I reached for the rosemary and pressed it into the soil. Grandpa's hands moved beside mine, steady and sure.